hear you. You've got your mic off. Christine, yeah, I can see you're muted. So can you find the little icon of your microphone in there?
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. We're here.
Ha, ha, ha. It's only like 5:15.
I was getting an echo, so I shut down the Facebook part of it. I'm only on the Zoom part.
Perfect. I'm going to watch the Facebook questions, and the best thing to do with that is you just really have to
watch on my phone.
Shut off your volume. So we've got Andrea's here from Brooklyn. Diane can see us and hear us. Suzanne's on the island. Oh, Whidbey is so awesome. Have you ever been to Whidbey Island, Christine?
I have not.
Oh man, it's absolutely amazing. It's just off of Seattle and just absolutely fantastic place. Suzanne lives there, lucky bee. I want to make sure that this is actually going here. And all right, guys, we are here with Christine Nolfi, and I am super excited about that. We've been friends kind of online for a long time, but
yeah,
I've never heard your voice.
Is this the first time we've chatted in real? We've talked on the phone.
Maybe we did, yeah.
I think before one of the Lake Union Twitter chats or
right. Something there.
Something.
So I'm trying to catch up here on all of the things that we missed already. Diane says Facebook's trying to get you confused, and
yes.
yeah, it likes to do that. It's been changing the rules a lot lately, making everything just interesting. Suzanne says I'm an amazing tech person. Ha! That's like one of the
more so than I am. I still have to learn all of this. I'm so far behind.
Suzanne
and I'm not picking up the
put your voice to your face.
I'm going to let you pick up the questions because I'm having trouble seeing.
That's fine. I'll do that. So Diane wants to know what is next for both of us, and congrats on your book. So we're moving right on to the big question. So what is next for you, Christine?
I left an indie project in limbo when I signed with Lake Union in 2015, and I really want to try to finish that. I don't know if I'm kidding myself. But if I can get that finished in the next couple of months, I would like to do that before pitching another project.
Yeah.
It seems like it's going to take me longer. Then I'm going to stop work on it and, work on the next pitch. But readers have been asking me about it for years because I published the first parts and then stopped because Lake Union, got a contract, then got a second contract.
Right.
So I guess I'm a little in limbo. What is next for you?
Not the contracts are a bad thing, right?
No, but I feel guilty because I left this in limbo.
I hear you. I have that too. I got hit up. I was at a funeral, which we try to make things as cheerful as possible. And one of my old time friends was on my case. He's like, "Hey, you wrote these 3 novellas. It's fantasy, paranormal stuff. My Dreamweaver books." He's like, "You promised you were going to write more," and that was
exactly. And then you feel guilty. You're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't just leave that."
I know, and I want to do more. But stuff.
How do you know to Amazon Publishing? And they're wonderful.
They are wonderful. Right. So what's next for me right now is I actually just finished a draft for a book that's due in August the 6th. So I have 3 weeks to try and fix this complete, total cluster mess.
It's not. No, you will fix it. Everyone feels that way when they finish the draft. Deep breath, little yoga.
Yeah. And then, I do yoga.
Yeah. Yes. I don't think we're supposed to love those drafts, but you have to stop. It's wonderful.
I know. Yeah, I was just, and then, my Viking, which is very supportive, but today he's like, so how is it? And I go, yeah, it's okay. He goes, you can't turn in just an okay book. I'm like, that's not helpful. You don't tell me those things.
You know what it is? It's as we start to gain some success, and nobody ever explained this to me. I think we become more critical of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we're actually better writers, but we're harder on ourselves. So you have to remember that you've written many wonderful books that readers love, and this one is wonderful too.
And that I thought they all sucked at some point.
Exactly. and do you know anyone who doesn't feel that way about their books at some point?
No, everybody feels that way at some point.
Yeah.
So excuse me, guys, if I'm looking over here, it's just because I'm trying to read your questions. So let's see. Now I don't want to miss anything.
I'm sorry, I feel lazy not helping you.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So next question was, somebody just said, loved Road She Left Behind. And we should talk about that because this is Christine's new release, The Road She Left Behind. And that came out when? June? Just about a month ago.
June 11th. Yeah, a month ago.
Right. So I pulled up a couple of quick things. So I did want to share with you. It is a parade, best beach reads of summer selection, a working mother most anticipated books of summer selection, and a she reads best books of summer selection. So dude, that's awesome. I mean, yay.
But I still thought it was crap at some point.
Right.
Okay, may I tell the funny story about how
Yes,
this book
that's
evolved?
right. I was just going to remember that there was a funny story. So tell us the story now.
Lake Union first signed me to do the Sweet Lake books. I wrote Sweet Lake and the Comfort of Secrets, and then my editor left the imprint. But right before she left, she said, you know, you should probably come up with a standalone idea. And I didn't know at the time that she was getting ready to leave. So my agent said, you know, really, maybe, yeah, do that. So I started writing Road, and then got a new editor, was assigned to Chris Warner, who I love.
Oh, I met Chris. He's just lovely.
He is. He's just a wonderful.
Yeah.
And then he just, I thought that he would want Road next, and then he decided he wanted a third Sweet Lake book. So I was scrambling because I was already pretty deep into Road, and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the third Sweet Lake book figured out. So I had to scramble and write that fairly quickly. Long story short, or any story short with writers. When I finally got around to writing Road, I'd had more time to think about it, and I wanted to add the character of Samson for a lot of reasons that I hope aren't obvious to the reader.
Oh, Samson is just
I wanted a way to deliver backstory without boring the reader in the first 50 pages.
Yeah.
So then when I started working on that for it, he's like, wait a second, this isn't the book I bought. It was wonderful. So he started reading as I was writing, decided he loved the edition too, and the rest is history.
Good. I know. That's so unnerving. I think I did something like that. I can't remember which one. Well, I always do. You know, they have you give them the synopsis thing.
Right.
My editor is Jody. She just knows that I'm going to give her a synopsis and I'm going to go way off track. Like, I'm just way over in the weeds. And last time she very kindly said, well, I don't really remember this as being the book that you said you were writing. I'm like, well,
but does anybody know the entire novel when they start writing? I don't think we're supposed to know everything.
I don't.
If we can't surprise ourselves as we write, how will we surprise readers?
Exactly. I totally agree with that. That's for me for sure. So let me see. Suzanne says, this is so fun. The comments disappear once they're done. Interesting. Oh, they're still there, Suzanne. You should just be able to like scroll back. You have to double click or something. Let's see. Suzanne's also a wonderful author. She says, I always go through the it sucks points.
Yeah, and I think that's just part of the process too.
Right.
We have to be a little bit critical, but we need to know when to stop criticizing ourselves. I think that's where we go overboard. Well,
you know, it's really funny because I actually am also I'm also a coach. I'm a creativity coach, a writer mindset coach, not a book coach. And so that's one of my big things that I work with all my clients is lowering your expectations, being kind to yourself, making it fun, all those kinds of things. And it's really easy to, you know, coach somebody else to do those things.
I've noticed a couple tricks. Like, for example, if I'm writing a difficult scene, I won't necessarily do it on the computer. I have figured out that my inner child gets scared. So I'll go to my favorite chair in the kids are all grown, so we have the house to ourselves now. And I feel safe there. And I have figured out that if I can make my inner child feel safe, I can create. And it's okay to feel scared. And then I can't always do it in my office where I am now. And I sometimes need to be in like a nurturing. Do you ever do that when you're writing? Have to find like a safe?
You know, I never thought of it quite that way, but it kind of depends. Like, there are places where I can write certain scenes and places where I can't. I'm more comfortable writing on my laptop than on my great big beautiful Apple that I splurged on. Because
you can move around with the laptop?
I can. Yeah, and sometimes I can write outside, sometimes I can't. It just kind of all depends on what's going on. So I am willing to pack up and move wherever it just feels better. What about you? Where do you usually end up writing?
I don't mind doing drafts on my Monster Mac in my office, but I tend to write the most important scenes longhand. I know that makes me nuts. In like my safe room, or I'll go sit in the backyard when it's gorgeous. And then I have to do most editing longhand, which again makes me crazy, but I have to print the whole book out. And when I go into my first revisions, I just do a better job if I'm doing it longhand. I'm icing my arms by the time I get done with draft number 3. You know, my husband's like, what are you doing to yourself?
Yeah, I have to print it off too. I have right now this huge mess. I just printed it off today. It's like,
yeah. and I have a purple pen. I like my purple pens. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, I guess you just have to learn your own little like nurturing tricks.
Right. The things that work. So I was actually interested in when you Sweet Lake is pretty different in a lot of ways, isn't it? From Road. So Sweet Lake is a lot more romance.
I think they wanted me to write something similar to the indie series I had done that did very well. Uh-huh. So
what was the indie series?
The Liberty series, Second Chance Grill, Treasure Me. I'd written 5 books, and I was just stupidly lucky. BookBub liked my books, so they would promote them, and then I would, build a readership that way. So when I first came on with Lake Union, I think they wanted something similar, so I think I kind of went along. And then by the time we got to Road, I wanted to write more serious fiction, something a little deeper. And Chris was very open to that, which I'm grateful, because that was a space that I was in years ago. And now I feel as a writer, I'm in a different place. Does that make sense?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't think any of us should be stuck in like a little box. Like you wrote this thing and now that's all you can write. It's like character casting, like you're a child star on one of those shows and you can never be anything but that person. I think that's crazy.
Not that I don't like writing books that have romance in them. It's just, that used to be the emphasis on my writing, where there would always be the central romance and everything was, I think they were all women's fiction. They weren't actually romances. But that was still very central. But now I want to get into, like, the issue of Darcy with her mother in The Road She Left Behind. I wanted to get into different issues and really examine 3 women's lives and how they dealt with tragedy.
Right. And so the road she left behind really very largely, I mean, is the relationship with Darcy and her mother, and then,
the next door neighbor, Nella, and having to deal with her issues from the past. And they all have to resolve this to move forward. Right. That was the most fascinating part. And how all these people fit back into a family.
Right. I agreed. And the way that, families can be very strained and stressed by those things, but they're still family. So it's like, no matter if you want to run away from your mother and might not talk to her for 10 years, she's still your mother.
Right. And what do you do if you have to reconnect and someone is having a serious health crisis?
Right, exactly.
I was fascinated by that too, because I'd read so many articles about different diseases. And if, we always assume that we're going to get the check for cancer or whatever and find out with enough time to do something. But what if you're confronted with a disease and you find out late and there aren't as many options? How do you handle that? And I wanted to really look into that.
Right. Well, and it's such a fertile field for dynamics and relationships, because the other piece of that is how do you tell somebody that you're angry when they're maybe dying? Right?
Exactly. And you should still have room to resolve those issues that you have. Oh, I'm sorry. We shouldn't be talking about this. It's too soon.
Yeah.
You just watched your mother.
Oh, no. We can talk about that. That's okay. We can talk. Yeah. Christine's bringing up that my mother recently had a stroke and has gone on to whatever comes next. It's perfectly fine to talk about it. That's okay.
I had to go
but
through
it was interesting. I mean, it was interesting for me because my mother and I have not always had the best of relationship, always.
Right. were you able to really connect toward the end? Did you get an opportunity to do that?
Well, yes and no. It was, she'd had a stroke, and so conversation was a little dicey, but yeah, in many ways, it's funny. I started writing poetry about sitting there and holding her hand and realizing some of the parts of the connection that, the parts of, yeah, the poem was kind of about getting to know your body in a way that I never did before, and the similarities between our hands, and all that kind of thing. So it was a whole different level of connection. The really weird thing for me was I had just finished writing a book, Whisper Me This, which involved a sort of a similar situation where the character's mother had she'd actually had a massive aneurysm, which the mother knew was coming. And she's lying, she's comatose, right? But she dies, and the daughter has to deal with that situation. Right. And I was just making it up as I went along. And then it was this echo, and it was just kind of weird with real life repeating the writing experience. So, it's interesting how life does that.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that seems to happen in writing? I have a theory that some of us become, I don't know, a little bit psychic as we continue as writers.
I agree.
Maybe we pick more up. Years ago, the second book I wrote was about Charleston, South Carolina, where I now live. And when I wrote that, I never would have dreamed that I would actually end up here. But I've always felt like, was that an echo? Did I somehow know? Maybe with Whisper Me This, you somehow were spiritually preparing yourself for something.
Maybe there's that. I used to have a phase in my life where I was worried that I was going to create the things by writing them. Right? It's like, if I kill this character who's kind of based on somebody.
Oh no, it'd be bad luck. No,
I'm actually going to.
I don't think it works that way.
I don't think so.
But I think we do have a capacity to almost pick up lives out of the ether.
I think we do.
Haven't you ever had a reader send you a note and say, this part of your book is so much like, and then they describe something that happened in their life?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't help but wonder.
I think that we tap into our unconscious, or the collective unconscious, or whatever.
I think we tap into the collective unconscious somehow.
Yeah. And
we
then
keep this practice of writing books.
Yeah, I think
that's all artists do, just in different capacities.
Right. Well, and that's where the best writing happens, I think, is when we're willing to go there and tap in, and why sometimes we have to go off script if we've, plotted or planned, and the book wants to go somewhere else. It's important to listen for that and go where.
I think it's always a good sign when you get up one morning and you start to write and the book is going somewhere else. And do you ever sit there slack-jawed writing going, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
But the character will go rogue on you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love when that happens, actually. That's usually when I know that I'm onto something. It's like, oh, we've hit that point now.
Me too.
Characters have gone rogue.
They've gone rogue. Finally, I've hit the book.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a while, and then I worry if it doesn't happen. So hang on a second. We have Suzanne had to go. Bye, Suzanne. Happy birthday to your son. Susan Peterson is here. Hey, hi, sorry.
Hi,
Susan. Susan says, sorry I'm late. I was finishing a book.
Hey, we're late too.
Which book were you reading that was more important than talking to Christine? I need to know. So go ahead and tell us. Diana says, tell me about your new book. Diana, which new book? We were already talking about, are you talking about The Road She Left Behind, which is the book that just came out? We've been discussing that, and we can certainly recap a little bit. Carol says, do you think you manifest your real intentions?
In our books?
Yeah.
Do we manifest our real intentions? I think I try to manifest the way I want the world to be. I think I try to reflect out what I hope relationships will become.
Right. I know. I certainly do that. I'm all about, the healing and at least a hopeful ending. I
worry that the world is so divisive that we need to have literature that brings some level of healing.
Yeah. Well, and healing for people. I mean, how many have been healed by something they've read, or even just comforted, or Diana, oh, just got on. I thought I saw out of the corner of my I have to go story, and I was like, oh, I better hurry up and say something to you. So let's see. Susan says, oh, she was reading The Friend Zone. It was fabulous. The Friend Zone. Who's that by, Susan? I think I
haven't read that yet.
I have heard of it. I haven't read it. So Carol says, how you said you wrote a book about where you live and where you live now you live there. So just talking about that with the.
Well, I started writing in my mid-40s when my marriage fell apart, and started with the Liberty books. I wanted to write something lighthearted because I just was so low. I wanted something to make me laugh. And so for the second book, I used my French ancestors as kind of a starting off point. They had come to Charleston in 1681. I knew that basic story, so I wanted to write it from a Black woman's perspective. So I wanted to flip it on its head. Anyway, I never dreamed that I would actually live here. But after writing those books, and then I met Barry in my early 50s, and just at that point, the kids were all raised, and I thought, why can't I just do this? And he was on board. So we just picked up and left Ohio and moved down here and love it. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. One of the weird things that happened, I'd actually forgotten about this. The first book I wrote between, wait, it wasn't even that one. It was a different one. It was before that one that's never been published. Okay, so I was writing a book.
I know, we have those books in the drawer that we should read once in a while.
Well, this one I keep thinking I might do something with. So this was the first book I ever wrote, definitely currently a drawer novel, but it was like, and this was a long time ago, so we're not going to get all sad or anything, but my husband, you got divorced, mine died, and I was 40. Sort of similar things to when I got serious about writing, and I wrote this character, and I started dating these two guys. One of them had the same first name as my character, and one had the same last name as my character. And they were,
oh my gosh!
I know, it was
Kerry,
like
you are psychic.
It was the freakiest thing.
Kerry,
I was like,
that was my point. I think we tap into the ether or something.
I think we do. I think something comes up.
Yeah.
Susan says, okay, so The Friend Zone is by Abby, I'm going to say Jimenez, probably a debut romance, but extremely emotional and beautiful. Infertility was a major issue. That is a really big issue, infertility. Yeah, I've touched on that a couple of times. It was not a problem for me. I was like, my mother used to have this saying. She was like, if he hung his pants on the bedpost, she got pregnant. I was like, yeah, I never had any.
On the flip side, I knew I couldn't have kids going into adulthood, so it's never been an issue. So I've never really put it in my books. I knew I was going to adopt. How many kids do you have?
I have 2. My Viking has 2. So between us, we have 4 boys. Yeah.
That's busy.
Oh yeah, it was. They're all grown up now. Yay.
My youngest is now 27.
Yeah, our oldest is 30. Yeah. So for a while there, I was writing with they're also different too, right? We have a small house. So one playing classical type stuff loudly on the grand piano, one about 10 feet away blasting things up on video games with the volume turned way up to compete with the grand piano, and then my youngest upstairs playing electric guitar. And I'm writing.
Were you writing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How did you for a while often?
For a while, I couldn't write when it was quiet anymore. It's just.
I used to get up at 5 in the morning and write before the kids got up because get them off to school, and then I'd sit back down and write again.
That's what I started doing too, is getting up at 5, and that's been a habit now I get up at 4 actually and write at 5, and now I can't stop. I started doing it out of desperation, and now my brain just wakes me up.
I think right after sleep is some of the most creative writing. Like we're still partially in that dream world and that early AM writing.
Right.
I'm amazed by the authors that can write at midnight. How does anybody do that? My brain does not want to work at midnight.
If you're a night owl, which I used to be more naturally, then that used to work for me. That was, before Yeah, but then I don't know. I did the switch. So we got to see if anybody else has anything else to say here. So we do manifest it, Carol says. Yeah, we probably, maybe we do. I don't know.
We do.
And that worries me a little bit sometimes. Like I said, you delete a character or something. It's just like, hopefully that's okay.
You feel like you're drawing characters from people you know. I never feel they're directly people in my life.
I tried that once and it didn't work out very well, but every now and then I kind of do. So let me ask you this. Have you ever, I'm not going to confess whether I have or not. Have you ever, that idea that you should never annoy a writer too much because they'll put you in a book and kill you? Have you ever sought revenge at all? No, see, you're a nice person.
No. I'm just not a revenge type. I tend to get hurt, or I'll get really frantic, and Barry will be like, calm down. But I don't know. I could never write horror or really dark suspense because I just don't have that revenge gene.
See, this is really good. I didn't think I did either.
And discovered a surprise.
Well, I know, right? In real life, I'm really a nice person, but and Carrie Ann King books are not like that. But as Carrie Schaefer, I do write some things that are a little dark, paranormal thriller things. It's like the last two of my Shadow Valley books. The Viking's reading one of them. He's reading.
He looks up.
He goes, "You're really scaring me right now." It wasn't the book that was scaring him. It was like, what's going on up here?
I don't know. I can't go there. I'm too much of a cream puff, I guess.
You are
Maybe I could have been my 40s, but now that I'm a little older, I'm just becoming more of a cream puff.
That's a good thing. You're a genuinely nice person. And I am in person.
Or I'm just genuinely a cream puff.
I'm a little... Carol says, let's see, I manifest I'm rich and live on a beach. Okay, Carol, are you a writer? Because if you're not, you need to get started. We'll see if we can, see what happens with that experiment. I do know somebody, I got to think of her name here real quick. Laura, can't think of the last name, and I would love to tell you about this book. She actually did an experiment where she spent a whole year writing about the life that she wanted to be living as if she was already living it. And a lot of those things really did happen for her. It's really, really amazing. And
she manifested it.
She did. And I want to tell you the name of this book, and now I can't, of course, because, but very, very cool.
Have you ever read Crossing to Avalon?
I didn't.
I think all women over the age of 40 should read that book.
Okay.
It's about the power we hold as women that we don't tend to recognize until we get a little older. It's such a beautiful book. It's written by a Jungian psychiatrist whose name is escaping me.
Oh, that's so Crossing to Avalon, written by Jungian psychiatrist. I love Jungian stuff. So
it's a beautiful. I will get you a copy. But I would like to give every woman, remember this title, ladies, anybody who's listening, Crossing to Avalon.
Okay.
It's a classic, but it talks about this inner wealth of power we have as women that we don't tend to discover until we're a little older.
Yeah.
And where society tells us that, we're old and we're all that horseshit.
Oh.
Am I allowed to?
I have no problem with it. I've been being very good, but I live with a Viking and
yeah,
not one of our things.
We can't ban words. We're writers.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's one of those books that really talks about the power we have as women that we tend to get more of as.
I think that's really true, and I'm interested in reading it for sure. I'm
making a note. I'm going to get you a copy.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm not going to argue with that. I will let you. So Susan's asking, will there be any more Carrie Schaefer books? Susan, I really hope so. I've been really, really, really wanting to write some more Carrie Schaefer books. Especially, my first love is fantasy. Like, I love writing women's fiction, but I've been reading some really awesome fantasy of late, and it's just been making me like, oh, I want to get back to that. So we'll see. I want to make time for that. I would love to write an actual novel in my Dream Merchant series, and I'd like to just write a freestanding fantasy. I am thinking about it. So we'll see. And the Shadow Valley books, I really do want to do. Maureen is awesome. Maureen, my character Maureen is totally that, like power as an older woman. There, yeah, I love her. She's so much fun. And let's see, Kerry says, do you have multiple, Diana says, do you have multiple personalities? Talking to me. Not really.
Sure you do. Don't all authors?
Depends on what you mean by
job
that.
description?
I do, kinda. Not, in a diagnosable sort of a way, but yeah, kind of. Can easily be different people. I like to do drama too. That's one of the fun things, is to be able to.
Don't you feel you become your main character at some point when you're writing?
Yeah, I try to be all of my characters when I'm writing.
But absolutely, whoever's carrying the story, absolutely that person.
Right. And well, I often do multiple points of view. So when I'm doing that, like my book that's coming out this fall in a couple of months, Everything You Are, I have 3 main-ish characters. And I absolutely need to try and get inside all of their skins. And I do that. I'm also a licensed counselor, so I have, a lot of experience of sitting, listening to people, and I'm also a bit of an empath, so kind of slide in, how does it feel in there? And so I do that when I'm writing characters. I'm guessing
what I do to get in the characters? I'll do diary. Sometimes I'll do it as I'm writing, but usually to prepare to start writing a new book, I'll start writing diary entries, first person, as if I am that character.
Right.
And that somehow puts me, and I tend to find things that I didn't know about the character if I'm them. And just start writing and just see what leads.
Right, because they tell you things that you didn't know. Susan says, I haven't read any Kerry Schaefer books. Which one should I read? Susan, we'll talk later. I know where you live. Depends. I mean, if you are straight up fantasy.
You should read all of them.
If you're straight up fantasy lover, you should start with the Between series or trilogy. And if you like paranormal thrillers, then you should start with Dead Before Dying. That's where we're at. Let's see. Diana says, I get it kind of scary though. Don't go too far. I always know exactly who I am, Diana. No fear, no worries there. I'm just scrolling to see if we missed anything we need to. All right. Anybody have any more questions for Christine? I don't know. And is there anything else we need to say about your book? I know we've talked about a little bit. We don't want to talk about it too much because we want everybody.
We don't want to give everything away.
We don't want to give everything away.
It's doing really well. I'm thrilled with the reviews. If you have read it, please post a review. Those reviews matter.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to give too much away about it. It's a little different than all of my earlier works. I hope it's a little more mainstream and more complex. That was my goal, and so far from what I'm seeing in the reviews, I think I achieved that.
Yeah, it looks like the reviews are awesome. Susan says I could read them all.
Yes, read them all. Don't ask her which one of her books. Start downloading.
Diana wants to know, Christine, where do you live?
Charleston, South Carolina.
And
I'm from Ohio. Wow. All of my books have been based there. Tellingly, Road was based in both Ohio and Charleston. It was kind of my veer to, the project I'm working on now takes place here in Charleston. Well, it takes place around the world also, but I've been here for 8 years, love it. The series is growing so quickly, it's a little overwhelming. Charleston keeps getting cited as best city to live in America, and I wish they would stop putting us on those lists because it's just growing too quickly at this point. I'm 10 minutes from the beach. I love it.
Awesome. I'm too far from water, but that's my only, I live in the mountains, and
I miss mountains.
Yeah.
I lived in mountains in Utah years ago, Park City, that area. Loved it.
Great. We are about 40 miles from the Canadian border in Washington State, and I'm in kind of gentle mountains. They're treed, but definitely mountains, and I can't see any of my neighbors. We sat out on the back deck yesterday, and I was writing, listening to the hummingbirds and watching the squirrels and, deer.
I'm coming to visit.
Yeah.
Especially now because this is our winter. It's so hot here. Although this is tourist season too. The whole town is swarming with tourists.
That's no fun. And
Yeah.
hot, right? So
and very hot. Today's real feel was 104. But again, it's the beach area and more
Susan wants you to know her review was up a long time ago.
Thank you.
5 big, bright, shiny yellow stars. So great.
Thank you.
Diana has friends in Charleston. So, I don't know, we've been talking for quite a while and we have other things to do. I know it's getting late at your end of the world. Your puppy never did come back and lie on his little bed. You see back there behind Christine, the doggy has a bed.
She has her own shelf and she also has that's her window over there. But she's asleep under my desk.
All right. Well, we don't want to disturb her.
It's her bedtime.
Right. And I'm in my office, so all of my kitties are at home and not here to give me a hard time. It's hot for here. Well, not really. It's like 80.
What is your temperature like this time of year?
It can be up to 100 max. Usually doesn't get more than that. Sometimes a couple days in August it'll get a little more, but usually 80s.
I would take the 80s right now.
And it cools down nicely at night. We don't have air conditioning. We just open all the windows at night and everything gets nice and cool, and then we shut it all up during the day. And so when it does get really hot, it's hot because hardly anybody really has air in this part of the world.
Yeah, don't need it.
We have wood stoves for winter instead. So.
Yeah, we don't really do winter. I mean, if it gets to 30, it's kind of shocking here.
Yeah.
Our winter is 50 degrees.
Right.
50 to 70. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
January is a great time to visit. Sometimes we're at the beach.
Right. And so you tend to write about characters who live in Ohio.
Yeah, all my books up till now were based in Ohio because I've lived there for years, and I sort of built a niche without intending to.
Right. I write, my women's fiction, almost actually everything I write is pretty much set where I'm at. I just like to be able to make stuff up, and I don't want to have to worry about getting all the details right. So for everything you are, a lot of it's set in Seattle, and actually I took a field trip because I'm hardly ever there. So it was like I had to go and
I've lived in different parts of the country, and I'd like to write about those other parts of the country. Ohio and here, I've lived in California, I've lived in Utah, I've lived in Virginia, and I'd like to just expand out a little more. Not that I'm unhappy I wrote all those books based in Ohio, but I'd like to.
Yeah, well, and you could, because we get to write whatever we want, right?
Right. That's right. Well, this has been wonderful. It's definitely close to my bedtime. Thank you for everyone who stopped in. Does anybody have any more questions?
Susan's saying, so great chatting with us. Oh, Diana says, lost our dog today. Oh, I'm so sorry, Diana. That's tragic. It's so sad when they leave us.
Yes, but we'll see them again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I'll see all of my cats and dogs that I've lost.
Yeah. They're all having a little animal party waiting for you.
Right. They are.
Believe it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really fun. Sorry about the techno problem at the beginning. I know we lost a couple people. I was just looking at messages here for a minute, and there were a few. We're here. They haven't been here on the chat.
Well, they'll catch this one when we upload it later.
Yeah, it's gonna be live, and everybody can watch later. So thank you so much. This was so fun. You guys, Christine's book is The Road She Left Behind. You can find that on Amazon, and the paper covers where other books are sold, and it's awesome, and you should read it. So
yes, you should. Please do.
All right.
Kerry, thank you for this.
Hey, it was fun. You have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.
Night.